Back 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everyone? I hope you are well and doing great and ready for today's session. For sure. We got, of course, tomorrow is the Supreme Court's expected ruling on the Trump tariffs. Could you imagine? Denied by the highest court in the land, Supreme Court, saying that nope, president does not have the power and or authority to do that. Those tariffs no longer stand. Do they got to pay back all that money? What's do they have to pay all that? And on that announcement, this has been massive. So first of all, markets under pressure today, this morning on the open, and heavy pressure, and then all of a sudden, major run up, like a couple of 100 points in a matter of minutes, and then set up, breakdown, taking out the overnight low. It has been absolutely wild out there, and just trying to get in. I wonder if the gap, this is the gap left from the previous week when we had the favorable outcome of what was going to be the trade deal, like making deals with China. And markets right now for sure under pressure. Bitcoin feeling it, down 5% on the session. And it's true. It's true. This sets up opportunity. So we're going to look at all of that together. And I just want to start off with a visualization. I'm surprised here. This is not the visualization I wanted to show you. Let me check this out on the daily over here. I I imagine that breaking below here, we tested it just earlier, that then we're coming down and we're likely coming at least to this trend line over here, which even though it doesn't necessarily close that gap, that is structurally closing it. So I if we take out that low, I think that this could see some further massive volatility today. I wanted to show you this chart though, and just give you a little perspective. It seems that, and it could be Bitcoin. It could be a lot of people's expectations for what was going to be a glorious October. I don't. We didn't once mention that whatsoever. Actually, all we said was that you're not going to see any euphoric rise in October outside of an adoption event. But in perspective here on the equity markets, yeah, um, they're still looking super healthy. I suppose it always does at the top, though. Is there ever a bang at the top? And just to build on that story we've been talking about, you could see that we did have, we're talking about the truth of what's currently happening, and that is throughout this year, you've seen a lot of people holding Bitcoin several years and more distributing that Bitcoin. There's distribution taking place. There's also buyers there that are absorbing it. Thus far, with the massive amount of selling pressure, we've seen Bitcoin hold 100,000. That looks like that's being tested. And by the way, if we were to see Bitcoin break the whole number over here, I guess we have this little area to watch. 98,445. I thought, for example, taking out this wick over here from, was this the CZ wick? I don't even know. Was that, yeah, it was. This is the Wintermute CZ wick over here. And once that was taken out, that's why I thought that was the opportunity to buy. And clearly didn't get it right. I thought that was a good long-term dollar cost average opportunity, and long-term, yes. And when I say long-term, like, but let's by 2026, and I think December is going to be pretty good here, and potentially even this month, But we got the bulls in the background now, and if we take out this wick over here, I'd be watching for the same thing over there, and to see whether or not that's a liquidity grab. If we break down structurally, just to give you a heads up over here, we'll give you pretty clear. It's right. It's if there's follow through below that wick, if that wick doesn't become a liquidity grab here, catching a lot of stop losses, and then able to find a reversal, and we break down, it's not too far below that, right? Somewhere around 97. At that point, this becomes a bit more of a hold your breath type moment. We haven't lost this structural line over here, coming in somewhere around 80, let's call it 86,000, 87,000. We haven't lost that since the election. or since way before the election, excuse me, since the year prior, the November prior to the election. That would be a significant breakdown, in my opinion. And if that's happening, then we're gonna, time to brace up. Because if we lose this over here, then while you have a little bit right over here, like you could go some, like if I were to, I don't even know where to, right there. And the reason I say right there is you see the one touch and then the two touches, and that's coming in $80,000 below 78,000, and then into the pocket over there 70,000. But all of this is well above 55,000. Bitcoin is cheap, and there we are. Bear market started. Ooh, 4-year cycle, right on time. The high is in. I don't think so. But how many times have I been wrong? Man, I don't even, how many times have I been wrong? For sure. I've seen many people make some banger calls, but this is not the one for me. I'm not making that call over here. Actually, some things that I want to highlight with you all. And at first, I guess what we should go over positioning first, and we continue to see over here. By the way, FNGU just giving back on the gap down, a lot of gains. It's got a big stop loss, 7%. Not liking that. It's not close to exiting the position. So this is in play over here, giving back a lot of gains from the peak over here. Now down -1%. Nvidia holding open position, 5% into profit. Strategy with the hedge, MicroStrategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy. I'm looking forward to macro hard. 7% current open position here, and we got a nice bit of a hedge opened up. Tesla taking a new position here this morning, and it looked like it was a gift. The early pressure early on overnight for Tesla's entry, but now under the pressure and weight of the market, that is down currently also -1%. So we are currently hedged over here, and we'll see what that looks like. 92.93 CME gap. I want to see what that looks like in 1 second. And then we're seeing the only participation here on the short side is Cardano, and that's currently continuing. Bitcoin bull runs over here out of the market, looking strong. And then you see Cardano holding that open position, currently building up into profit. 92. That's over here. So we got an important de-risk event, and that's moved up now, right? That's where is it, George? So yeah, it's up higher now. I would say it's about 91. So that's just above the CME gap that Craxy is pointing out. And we would like to see that hold. We've talked about this well in advance. We talked about this when the markets were closer to the highs. And what would you do if this were to occur, if we were to get a breakdown over here? That's a de-risk event. That's a trend line break. It's an important one. I want to look at it from this angle. 92,000 is currently, we were just tracking over there. So yeah, I don't really have it. I mean, I'm just trying to see what's there, and I'm taking a peek, and you can see this is where we wicked below and over there, and that's probably close to it, right? That's lining up with that de-risk event. I guess it's a little hard. We've had 2 spikes below. This is the line I was just telling you about. We hadn't broke since November of 2023. So as a more precise de-risk event, and that makes a lot of sense. The two looks here, the 2 vantage points converging on each other, because we this is a de-risk event. That's a de-risk event, but you want to get in precise with structure, and it's right below that area we were just looking at, right below, right 86,000, close below 86,000, and that opens up the door. However, if that were to happen, by the way, what's the magnitude of a drawdown like that into the de-risk event? It's 30%, which is just normal, right? We've had a few of those this bull market. And then opening up below, that becomes very steep. Here's the thing, from my own opinion, because when I'm looking at the macro, I know a lot of people, someone was asking about the jobs the jobs report coming out. My own personal belief here is that we're going to see a stabilization in the job market. This is as the Fed is beginning to have monetary policy aligned through bringing down, cutting the overnight rate. And then we're seeing, obviously, the end of QT scheduled for December 1st. And then we're going to see that balance sheet begin expanding the other way. And we have to watch the pace of that balance sheet expansion and see what that looks like in relation to the last time that happened in fourth quarter 2019 and then into the first quarter of 2020. But risk responded extremely favorable to it. I am under the belief that we are going to see, now that monetary policy is beginning to align, a reacceleration. I don't know when that happens, whether it's somewhere, 3 to 6 months from now, we start seeing like their narratives. Oh, look, it's reaccelerating. That's my own personal belief. I know, I'm aware of bear market 2026 and all these recession calls, and Bessent, Treasury Secretary Bessent, said yesterday, which is completely correct, that yeah, like there's a large portion of the economy that are currently in recession right now. We call it a depression, a silent depression, and people are suffering. It's absolutely horrible, and it's going to get worse. But the thing is that we are seeing another area of the economy that's surrounded by tech, and it's completely as we like, it's booming, and I don't see end to that. I see a further move in that direction now. With obviously the markets are not the economy. V4 is it's nice to see the forward test, live forward test in action over here. And, Cardano's holding an 18% open position here on V2. So that's different. This is currently holding open 4.8, but it's closed a couple right before. So it's been in and out. So it kind of adds up to the same. So that's even, don't get fooled over here. Uh, Short on Ethereum, which we're just out of the market, and here's short on Bitcoin 9%. That this is opportunity. This tool, which is soon going to be available to all of CTM, it makes the future bright. And we know, right, and even the timing, right, with the perpetual futures now open up on Coinbase for the US, giving people the opportunity in the US to be able to, with very favorable commissions. Don't forget, the commissions we use here are very high, 0.1% on the entry and on the exit, 0.1%. The new Coinbase perpetual futures are 0.02%, makes even a significant difference over here. And this is something that is going to give people the opportunity here to do things that this is why we're here working together. Is absolutely beautiful. My what do I think happens in I think we'll start here. The question is, what do I think happens with Bitcoin in November and December? And I think we could start over here. By the way, I thought that before they started refilling the TGA, I thought that they would get up to $850 billion. And they've exceeded that number by 130 billion. They took more liquidity out from the markets than I anticipated. And you could see over here that they're backing off right now. There's nothing scheduled, at least for the next week. Maybe Bessent's like, you know what? Maybe this was a ploy. Did anyone ever think that maybe y'all familiar with Soros taking down the Bank of England, which was it was architected by Stanley Druckenmiller, and that's the team that Bessent was working on afterwards. Bessent was working for Soros, and that's where he learned the craft, and he participated on the initial mega QE out of Japan, 2012, 2013, and he was able to take a lot of lessons from. I wonder, did Bessent go extra hard here in order to put the squeeze that we're seeing that is forcing the Fed to stop the QT? and begin running the balance sheet the other way. So was that, I have no idea, but I wonder if that was a very careful, crafted maneuver over here. And Fed doesn't want to play ball. We're going to find a way to get him to play ball. It could be. Let's see what the expectations here in December now after today's carnage, and they haven't moved. Powell did a great job here of keeping the markets guessing, and the markets since Powell last Wednesday has, let me pull up a chart of the NASDAQ, and you can see since Powell on last Wednesday, Powell, by keeping the market guessing about whether or not December is going to see that cut, the market's a fiend right now. It wants that cut. It really, really does. And Powell was able to stop. It was such a good move. I said it the day after. I think that Powell played this really well. I think they're cutting, outside of an enormous surprise. And we don't even have the data, right? Someone was mentioning what I'm not aware of the calendar here. By the way, what happens if the Supreme Court rules against the use of tariffs by Trump and the administration, and then expect volatility in so much as that maybe markets rally off of that, and then maybe the administration already has like a backup plan, as Besson is alluding to. We have other options, and there and it could get messy. Be careful out there. Be careful. So let's go ahead and so I don't know what data is coming out and what's not. This I see ADP is coming out tomorrow. If they're able to meet expectations, is that enough to get Powell to stop? It doesn't look like it. It doesn't appear so. And the meeting, just from my, is the 10th. So there is the possibility the government reopens and that we see non-farm payroll and a bunch of jobs the first week of December ahead of the cut. And if that's happening, I was just wondering why they have the, this is FOMC. Hold on one second. I'm off. Hold on one second, y'all. I'm trying to go to this week over here, the first week of December. And if assuming the US government is open ahead of the Fed, we're going to get a bunch of jobs data reports. And if that is that's the only thing I see that could get that's what Powell said. The only thing that could get him not to come in and cut is going to be if there's a surprise out on the job front. So is that going to happen? I don't know. I was on the wrong month over here, so I'm looking ahead. And then there we are. So with that all being said, brings us back over to here and share some thoughts that are really agreeing with. And we'll take a look at them. And, so we're seeing right now contraction in liquidity flowing into risk markets, right? Showing up in Bitcoin first, and Bitcoin has also at the same time. Did I get to show you? I didn't show you. I meant to, right? We've been talking about, obviously, as all of crypto Twitter is, the very real distribution taking place. Here you have 10,000 Bitcoin, right? Held for 14 years and sold it for $1 billion. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, sorry about that. I'm reading. I'm sitting here spreading misinformation with you. Thank God for these notes over here on Twitter. That took place in July of 2005. Nevertheless, what a boss to be able to buy Bitcoin at $1.54 and then clear $1 billion in 14 years. That's insane. 10, 15. That's a lot of money to spend on Bitcoin back then also. Like, talk about conviction. $15,000 and not selling. I imagine that player held a lot more Bitcoin. Showing up in Bitcoin. Okay, let's go over here. So monetary liquidity is drawing down as the TGA has become overfilled. I got this wrong. I thought, and I was bearish because of it, as they began refilling the TGA, right? That, in September and October, that was going to be a headwind for liquidity. And I thought that's why had the bears in the background. I thought because of that, equity markets with seasonalities would likely correct back then. And we didn't see that. To me, that's also a testimony about how powerful this bull is. Now, of course, we're very Bitcoin centric here. Nevertheless, Bitcoin was feeling that drag of the liquidity out there ahead of it with the selling pressure, the distribution that's very clearly taking place. But the tech was not. The tech defied gravity through September and October, and it was Powell who put a little bit of a lid on it by saying, I'm not sure we're going to cut. Now, it's if Powell cuts, what's the next thing? Markets look forward. Expectations in the beginning of 2026. Likely the Fed is, but what the market soon will be looking at is that the next Fed chair will soon be in office, replacing Powell, and likely we're going to see an acceleration of cuts coming into the market with that. So that's the tension we're playing through. But markets get the cut in December, and I think that gives the opportunity here for December and Santa Claus rally to be in full effect. I do believe that. So we got to get to this in 1 second. So due to mechanical factors around high issuances, timing, you could see that though, like like you could see the ball clearly, and then the timing, it's very difficult. Thank God we have mechanical solutions to know when to be in the market and when out. It's very difficult to read the macro and then time it perfectly. It's so difficult. There are very few times that you get like a free kick, a layup. Powell coming in and flooding the system. We were. It took us a few weeks, and then we're like, you cannot sell anymore. There's only buy. A lot of macro experts out there, right? They were talking about that insolvency event up and through the summer. They were off sides for many, many more months. That's one of the few. Dr. Lacey Hunt, this is going to be deflationary. We're like, no, this is going to be uber asset inflationary. Anyway, so we're looking here. They went above the $850 billion cap. And that squeezed out more liquidity. Again, Powell taking putting the guessing on whether there's a cut in December FOMC is really what has put the top in so far. The junkie wants that cut. I'm wondering here why you haven't hit the like button. Go ahead and hit the like button. It's a joy to be here with you, but I like the energy. So the timing of specific payments, the government shutdown, the broader risk, blah, 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 blah. This is all putting further pressure out on liquidity. DXY has been rallying. I suppose that this is going to stop right around the 101 area. Interesting. We just talked about liquidity grabs, so we have to watch over here. Here's another one over here at 105, and here's some strong resistance, and I don't know. Could we get a move into this is our, let me come off the bottom tick over there, and then you could see the wick and through. So now I'm moving it to the top of this wick that we came into. So could we get a move all the way into 103? If we do, that's when I would think that we're going to be getting a reversal. But, I don't know how to put this in over here. In the olden days, we would do something like this, right? And that would show that this bear flag that's forming is probably going to roll over. It looks to me, and I wonder if it's something closer to this. And I think that's correct, but I don't know. I'm going to go like this. And I know we wicked down over here. Look at that. Liquidity grab. Found the bottom, right? That was actually the bottom over here. Anyway, so back to Ba-dum-bum-bum. This thus I view this as transient. Man, when is Powell going to admit he was wrong about the tariffs? Are we going to see that in December? Before he leaves office, I want him to say that he got it wrong again. He got inflation wrong. He got the tariffs being inflationary wrong. But with all of the amount of money they spend on analysts and quants there, you think that they would do a better job. But I digress. I view this as transient. This environment can persist for a bit longer. It just began. The government reopening provides a clear catalyst to mark the bottom in liquidity conditions. Then we get this is bullish here. Then we get QT unwinding in December, if not before. And then we look at Fed begin repurchasing bills on December 10th. The deficit will expand significantly starting January 1st. I don't know what this is. Does anyone know what the OBBA will fully kick in? All in all, Bitcoin has held up well in despite of the tremendous OG selling, the aftermath of 1010, Binance, Wintermute, and the factors above. Did you hear Trump say he doesn't know who CZ is? Was there a pardon issued for CZ? And if Trump doesn't know who he is, was he using an auto pen? Something to think about. Something I'm thinking about over here. I blah 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 blah. And I just want to highlight this also. Again, a lot of elements here of the macro that I significantly agree with and find similar. And this part here is something that is not on my radar, so I want to highlight it with you. Everything that we've been discussing, all in sync. But here's a twist. Even with the leak plugged, this is as we move towards the end of QT, as they begin their balance sheet expansion, water still escapes naturally. And people use more physical cash as the economy grows. Banks must hold bigger safety buffers under the post-2008 rules. Together, those natural leaks pull another $400 billion. I should get Mr. Vix on this. Out of the pool by next June. If the Fed does nothing, we get another 2019 style repo crisis, rate spikes, stocks dive, Powell scrambles. So I have to get I'm going to tag Mr. Vix on this and find out. I'm not. So someone hit a thumbs down. Lots of love to you. But bye. So. Let's find out more. He's assuming that because of this extra pressure out on a very fragile, what is becoming fragile liquidity, the ample reserves are going lower, that by the summer of 2026, the Fed will quietly restart bond purchases. This is outright QE. He's calling it mini QE. And yeah, I guess on the pace matters. The pace matters. Fresh dollars every month to keep the water level safe. Liquidity turns from red to green. Guys, the high of the cycle is a lot closer to the 2028 halving than the 2024. The shutdown is the wild card. If Congress passes a budget by November 21st, $400 billion floods back into the markets. NASDAQ could rip 5 to 8% before Christmas. If not, liquidity stays locked. Do you think they're going to keep the government? No, I just gave maybe we got a lag over here. No, the cycle is not over. The cycle is not over, and he doesn't know CZ. Did the pardon happen? It seems like the pardon happened. If he doesn't know who he pardoned, did he use an auto pen? Cardano is currently running hard. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the analysis here. Cardano is short, strongly short over here, into a whopping 19% short. And, guys, it makes a lot of sense. Liquidity running down the risk curve. You know what? Hunter, you just go down there, submit an application. Yes, it is. And the question is, right? Do they respond quick? And we all know what happened in September 2019 when they stopped QT. This is the Fed cycle that I've laid out. We're now getting to that point. Guys, opportunity is abundant. And yes, we have a significant edge lineup, coming to us. And I also want to talk about some other things with you. And, tomorrow we gotta wait for the Supreme Court here, and we gotta wait to see what the response from the Trump team is. But I'm trying to find out where we go. Yeah. But now that we have some corrections in the markets, we can see that. Have we seen any corrections? We're just getting started. But tomorrow we'll do a good nugget, maybe. Tomorrow we'll do a good, we'll do a look out onto the horizon and see what waves are potentially setting up over here, and we'll plan it out and try to find the right timing. I would say here, look at the home builders, coming into an area of support in a steep ascent, a break out of that wedge, that becomes attractive. We'll take a long look tomorrow together. Sorry, I was looking at that. I was laughing. Guys, lots of love. Thanks for the support. Thanks for hitting the thumbs up. Hey, listen, if you're new here, welcome. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. This is the place to be. I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a beautiful day, everyone. I love this session. I hope you did too.